Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With us, we have Matt from New Era and Dr. Perera. Matt, why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself?
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here today. I'm Matt Kinnaman with New Era Superintendents, and we are focused on supporting superintendents every way we can to make sure every student, gets the best shot at achieving proficiency in math and reading, and then living a good life. Thanks for opportunity.
Dr. Perera, welcome. Thanks for having us. I don't know if you mind just sharing just a quick little word about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't mind at all. And thanks for having me today. Again, my name is Katrise Perera, and I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as superintendent here in Lancaster ISD, which is in Texas, about 15 miles due south of the city of Dallas. We serve about 7,000 kids, 12 different campuses, 900 plus employees, and we have demographics that are a variety of demographic students. Make up of 75% African American, about 25%, 20% Hispanic, Latino, and then there's a variation of others as well.
Awesome. Well, great to have you. It's an honor for a number of reasons. I mean, first off, Superintendent of the Year is joining us today, so congratulations again. And I know it's well deserved. So this is going to be like a powerhouse conversation from someone that's just running a district that's just a model across the United States. So, Matt, I know you had some questions. I'll let you kind of kick them off.
One of the first conversations that Dr. Perera and I had about the mission of New Era Superintendents, which is to make sure every student gets the best opportunities to achieve proficiency in math and reading, came right away to staffing the district and how the mission of achievement is, I guess we could say, subservient in some dimensions to staffing. First things first. And so that struck me very powerfully, Dr. Perera, when you brought that up right away and said, yeah, it's great. We want our math scores, our reading scores, and our achievement to be increasing, and we need to address that. But what if I don't have a bus driver? And what, more importantly, if I don't have a teacher in that classroom? And from there, the discussion became not only illuminating to me, but kind of surprising, because there are things happening in this case, specifically in Lancaster ISD, that Dr. Perera has built and innovated to address teacher recruitment and retention, but also, this is my editorializing, but I know I'm right. Also performance, not just recruitment and retention, but performance. But the path that she has used and blazed to make that possible, I just had never heard of, and still am learning about it. So that leads to an open-ended question, Dr. Perera. When we think about, or when you tackle teacher recruitment and retention in your district, how did you size up the problem? And then can you talk about the program that you built? And I'm referring to, I hope I get this right, I'm referring to the 40-40-50-50 program.
Sure. I let me just first state that problem, right? Being in education as long as I've been, and then I will begin my 30th year this fall as an educator, and have loved every moment of it. But what I will tell you is that, researchers estimate that there are more than 36,000 teacher vacancies in the United States every year. On average, that's about how many we had. And we saw a huge amount of almost 2 million leave the profession right after COVID. They had enough, or they're eligible to retire, but we also have an aging workforce as well. And so we estimate that, there are more than, 160 plus positions to be filled by teachers because of all of the attrition, the retirement, et cetera, throughout the year. And of course, I have to believe the research somewhat, right? And I see it in my district. And so in order to, change that dynamic here in Lancaster, I always referred back to an experience that I had as a brand new teacher in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 30 years ago. I'll just say that. Um, and I was able to begin teaching before I did my student teaching or acquired my license. And I was in the process of working on that. And my principal charged me with doing that. She allowed me to teach. Um, but she brought in a retired teacher who really acted as a coach for me. And of course, as a former athlete, I responded to that very well and loved every moment. And I think I would have never gotten off the ground well as a teacher had I not had an opportunity to really have that experience. But also just being aware of our job market, the building competitive pay structures, et cetera, and then trying to expand that pool. We here in Lancaster looked at several things as we were looking to do something innovative and different. We had to look at our existing challenges as well. You know, all the research I just shared with you, but also our inconsistencies in some of our practices. You know, is it management versus instruction? Like, what do we want to do? And how do we retain our staff? Looking at the mobility of individuals, looking at our hiring challenges, as well as engaging those challenges as well. But we had a desired state was to be consistent with our student experiences. And what I know about education and nothing else is that consistency is also just as important to a student progress as it is to have a student have that academic background as well. And those things are important. So we came up with a competitive pay structure here in Lancaster, and I'm proud to say that we have the top pay for our new teachers in the best Southwest, with our new teacher salaries at 59.5 that they start off at each year. And they also have some other incentives built in there so they can earn a little bit more money. But when it came to looking for staff, teachers itself, it was really, I would say, not necessarily slim pickings, but there were no pickings. There were no pickings out there. So we went out and recruited students with bachelor's degrees who had a desire to be a teacher, but were too far along in their program to change. And I will admit that I was one of those individuals as well. I'm like, no, I'm a junior now, and I'm going to get out of here in a year. I'm not changing anything. And if a desire calls, then I'll do it when I finish. So we look for individuals with a bachelor's degree, and we brought them in full benefits. They're teaching a full schedule as teachers do, 187 days, and it's for the entire school year. There's a pathway to alternative certification programs. We had an alternative certification fair, will allow the teachers to select, because we didn't want to force any one program on anyone, and also working with accredited university teacher candidate programs. And we had to, because of the regulations in Texas, identify them as classroom facilitators, not necessarily as fully certified teachers, because they were not. Those who just had their bachelor's degree and no work towards their certification, we hired them on for a fraction of that amount of money. The 59, we took 40,000 of that as their salary, and then the delta between those two to provide some support for them. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then those who had already started a program for certification, we brought them in at 50,000 and took the delta between the new teacher pay and that to again help ensure that they had the support systems and working towards their certification for that. So their first 40 days, that 40/40 comes from really the 40,000. And they had the first 40 days of the school year to kind of explore what they wanted. And then that next 40 days or 50 days, they were to enroll in one of those programs. And then again, we chunked the year out by 40 days, of course.
Yeah.
And then engaging in those modules, and they have to report on a regular basis to our HR team and their principal how they're progressing, and then their exams. And that allowed us to, again, come into that school year, year before last, with 2 vacancies.
Wow.
And those were hard to staff areas, something like, physics and upper level math that, we really just couldn't hire someone who didn't have that content knowledge.
And you've obviously built this program, Dr. Pereira, which is incredible. And I know from obviously our company, right, we're working in school districts all throughout the nation, right? So like we're in a different arm, right? We're in IT and we're providing security services, different things like that. But we're in these classrooms And we're seeing districts do this very differently, right? Sometimes it's like you feel like they just put a warm body in the room, and that's kind of all their objective was. And then other times you see these teachers that just like they just ooze passion and just they want to literally just mentor kids. And you see these kids, you're seeing kids come back and visit them that are in high school, and they're teaching in elementary, and like they're seeing their kids kind of grow up and the fruits of their work. I'm curious, I mean, you've got this really cool program, I guess. Are there attributes you're looking for in these candidates, maybe what people saw in you when you were kind of in those early, maybe in the middle of your kind of college career? Like, is there certain things you guys are looking for, or like that you test for, or just like a certain attribute of grit or something you just like, you're looking for? Because I mean, you obviously, I don't know a whole lot about you, but I mean, I know you were an athlete, so there's a level of grit to be an athlete, right, at a certain level. And I'm just kind of curious, is there some kind of core attribute you're looking for that makes a great teacher?
Absolutely. Obviously, you want to know that the person fits, right? But nonetheless, because we have an atmosphere of champions, not only in the classroom, but on the fields as well. And as a former athlete, I can't help but inquire when I'm talking to candidates about, what are some things that they've been successful at? And I'm particularly drawn to people who have a competitive edge with them, but also have the desire to ensure that kids get what they need. That whole passion piece itself. And when I know I can mix someone who has the passion for ensuring that kids get what they need in an equitable scenario and a taste for winning, to me, that's a winning combination. Because that person, once you taste winning or once you get to a certain level, you never want to go astray away from that. You always want to win, and no matter what it is,
Yeah.
you're going to have the competitive spirit in you. And to me, that's important in a classroom because you're going to make sure your kids get what you need. And you're going to do whatever by any means necessary, if you will, and to ensure that. And you're going to approach their learning deficits more like a coach would approach something, as opposed to if I'm basketball, if I'm shooting my free throws and I'm off a little bit, my coach is going to have me practice on that. They're not going to have me go work on dribbling,
Yeah.
just because that's the lesson of the day. So I'm looking for people, and I look for folks no matter what level, teacher, and especially in leadership. I need that competitive edge with them.
So on this aspect, I believe, Dr. Perera, you have a magic question that you ask each prospect,
Mhm.
and you're making me think about that because we talked about the magic question, so I know that it exists, but it's part of your selection process.
Yeah, there is a question I always ask, about what is the importance of winning and why do they want to win? I ask it in a variety of different ways, to be quite honest with you, Matt. So there's no one particular statement that I utilize directly, but I try to pull some statement out of them about why winning is important, and what do they like about it and how they feel truly. Because you can tell me you've been successful at something, but I want to know how that felt with you internally, because that is assured. I'm reassured at that point that you don't want to lose that feeling. You're going to do everything you can to get back in that position as well. And so I usually try to ask the question around winning and what they're feeling, what their emotions are around that time frame. And of course, I always ask why Lancaster and why now.
When you ask about, hey, what is a time that you won and how did it feel? What are you listening for the candidate to communicate?
It's not so much of what I'm listening for. I'm really looking at their body language to see how they went, right? And so, people share that information and a variety of different emotions. But when you can see that their face light up and they get to talk about something that they've accomplished, to me, that shows a little bit of passion as well, and a desire to keep winning. And, I want people who want to win, and I want people who want to be champions for kids in the classroom and in leadership roles in my district. And so, yeah, maybe I may detract things too much or push things towards the athletic piece, but I think teaching is coaching all the way
Yeah.
around. It is really. You need to know your players. You need to know your students. You need to build relationships with students. You need to build them with your players. You have to have a game plan in both areas, right? And then you have to know how to ensure that they're ready for the next game or assessment or whatever that is. by knowing what their deficits are, and ensuring that you have a proper training opportunity for to move to that next level. I approached it in the classroom as a teacher, was successful in that manner. As a principal, I've been successful with that same kind of mindset. And as a superintendent in 3 different states, 3 different districts, I think we've, with the team, have reached some level of success on behalf of our students. But I say all that to say one other thing that I should have said earlier. Education doesn't happen just because my teachers show up in the classroom either. That leadership piece, they need that. As you shared earlier, Mr. Kenneman, about the bus drivers, if they don't get them here, I can't teach them. I mean, we can't teach them if they don't get here. If we don't feed them, they're not going to pay attention. That Maslow's before Bloom's theory and scenario. So lots of different factors that go into ensuring that our kids get what they need. But if we don't have all the basic needs being met, then no matter what level of curriculum you put in front of them or what mastery level of your teachers, it won't happen without someone who really has that desire and that passion to ensure that kids get what they need. And that includes not just the content, but also what they do here, what kind of support they have.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious, Dr. Perera, you know, it's always interesting to me just kind of the expectations for teachers and how teachers are dealing with like to your point, I mean, getting kids to school, feeding them. I was one of those kids that need to be fed, right? So I didn't have meals at home. So it's like there's all these variables, right? And so I feel like a lot of times schools will just blanketly look at test scores when it may be different in each classroom, each teacher's kind of situation may be different based on what variables they're dealing with, right? Whether it's kids that English is their second language. I mean, there's a series of variables there. So I'm curious, like how do you gauge kind of who your A player teachers are? And that may be a tough question, I know, but just with all those factors, obviously I think we're dealing with a lot more than we used to, even in the workplace, right? Like a lot of things that maybe a church would help with or things like that, some of those have fallen off, and so we're handling a lot more of the load than we used to. I imagine teachers are probably in a similar boat as far as just kind of the amount of things that they're dealing with on a daily basis.
Well, absolutely. And you have to have those support systems. I mean, our kids are not going to get what they need if our teachers do not get what they need as well. So we try to build, even with the 40-40, 50-50, in every teacher, we build in support systems where we have a mentor or a partner teacher on campus. Everybody has a partner of some level or another, whether it's a direct mentor or it's just someone on your team or in your grade level. However, leave that up to the principals to make those matches. And then there are district level mentors as well, especially for our new staff, the 0 to 3 year teachers. We have district level individuals who meet with them and talk with them on a regular basis. We ensure that the mentors themselves have the tools and the resources to be able to meet the needs of our staff members. And then our district and campus in-person professional learning, that PLCs that happen on a regular basis. Again, these are all things to ensure that our staff is ready. Just like in athletics, you got to practice before you play a game. We give them in the PLC moments an opportunity to teach their colleagues the lesson before they actually go to their classrooms and do it, to make sure that they practice and they're ready to go when it's time for them to be on in their classroom. We have some on-learning demand professional learning for them. We also have what I particularly have been happy about and quite proud of, and we had some of that recognition, Matt, was because of our Wellness Wednesday programs that we have here in Lancaster, where it's online, and it's come, if you will. We usually have a really healthy group of individuals who come in and kind of support each other. It's kind of like a little round robin, round table discussion about what's happening, how can we help each other. But we also have in place some SEL strategies, including a psychologist that works with both our students and our staff. And we also have SEL counselors, again, working. We have counselors for students and for staff as well, because not only did this COVID thing change our kids, it also changed our staff members as well. And so trying to be proactive and help us support them in those ways have all attributed to, I will say, having one of the highest retention rates in this area as well. And if you want to know more about that, the mentors, the power up pieces, I can tell you a little bit more about what they are responsible for ensuring that happens with their new 0 to 3 year teachers.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I mean, because I think a lot of everything from mental health all the way down to just how you teach in classroom, probably feeling alone is probably the last thing you want to feel as a teacher, right? I mean,
Trust me, you have to really run away to get a loan here. We try to make sure we maximize and leverage your time here at work. And I know it's a lot for new teachers, but again, in the end, you can see the production, the opportunities that they provide for kids and the progress of our students. I mean, the last 2 years, our reading scores in third grade have jumped 15 to 20% every year.
Congratulations.
And we've had a 100% graduation rate every year I've been here, and we will do it again for the third year in a row here in Lancaster. And that's not an easy feat, but again, all those wraparound services around that, around the teacher as well as around the student, I think allows us to be able to do that. And it's just about, again, having that game plan and knowing what people need from the adults. Well, I'll say from the classroom to the boardroom, because we also do some things. I have a big retreat this Friday and Saturday with my board members as well about some of these same things. But we have power up ambassadors that I was going to share that actually those are the retired teachers that come and work with the 40/40 and 50/50 specifically. And these folks are they're teachers that have not had any of the educational background classes, right? So our ambassadors are working with them on classroom management, on lesson planning, on the TEKS, aligning their student work with the TEKS, small group instruction, differentiation, all those things that a fully certified, experienced teacher knows kind of intuitively how to do. But something as simple as grading can be a challenge for someone who's never really taught a class, and ensuring that they have that classroom environment that's conducive to learning as well. And so they come in twice a week. Remember the delta amount that we pay them 40 or 50, the delta between that and 59.5? We use that to pay our power up ambassadors. We pay them about $200 a day for them to come in and support our new teachers. And it doesn't cost our district any more money because it's already budgeted for that position. And we utilize those dollars again to ensure that they get the supports that they need.
really smart, brilliant.
And again, that goes all back to the experience that I had as a brand new teacher in Charlottesville, Virginia, 1 September, about 30 years ago.
Yeah. How about scaling this program to other districts? Can you do it? Is it happening?
I think it's scalable no matter where, because again, it's no more money. It doesn't cost you any more money, right? What it does is have to have a commitment from your staff in order to carry it out with fidelity. And we have worked very hard to ensure that we're carrying this out with fidelity, because no one wants to lose a staff member, especially if they're productive. Now, we all know every year there's about 3 to 5% that really just doesn't cut the mustard, right? And you have to do some things that don't respond to some of the support systems that are there. You have to do some things differently. And those things happen as well. And, I like to say to individuals as they come on board, we are here to help you out, making sure you get better, do better, or we help you out and find a new work address. One or the other. And those two things are the same words, but they mean two different things.
That's incredible. I mean, with that, I can probably close out here in a minute for you, Dr. Pereira. So appreciate your time, but I think the best leaders are good at tough conversations, right? And it seems like
Mhm.
that's probably just a muscle for you. Are there tools you use, or I guess how did you get used to being able to have those direct conversations quickly when they need to happen, right?
Well, I will admit I am not used to it. I know that I have to do it. I call those courageous conversations that we have to have. And we've done some professional development around that with our leaders, teacher leaders, as well as obviously even myself. I go through some level of training and refresher every year just because I have a very compassionate heart for individuals and people, and I want to see the best in them. And naturally, as an educator, I want them to do well. I don't want them to fail. And so those conversations never get easier. I just am familiarize myself more of how to approach them and how to talk about and stay focused on the things that we need to share. Um, they're not easy. And and I've done this work for, like I said, a number of years. This is my 11th year as a superintendent, and I'm still not used to those. I still get butterflies and jittery before having to have this conversation, because I know that conversation not only impacts the school district and the school, but it also impacts that person and their individual livelihood. And I never want to put anyone in a bad position with that.
Dr. Perera, thank you so much. I mean, this is inspirational. If I could go back to school, I'd go back to your school. Too old for that. Don't have enough hair, but appreciate your time. And I mean, this is invaluable as far as just what you shared today. As far as just this is a huge problem for schools throughout the nation. Matt, I don't know if you have anything on closing you want to say or.
Oh, I was just going to say that, we have taken this on the road. We had a road show the last year and a half at just about every national conference that we attended and every statewide one, just trying to share, because naturally as a teacher, we share out and want other people. To me, it's complimentary for people to replicate what you're doing. And some people may see it as, oh, you're stealing my ideas. I say, hey, we're all on the same team. We just have different names on the back of our jerseys. And we're all here to ensure that our kids are getting what they need. And that begins with who we hire.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The strong impression I get is about the importance of effective leadership on achievement and everything else. To have a powerful district that's getting results, and third grade teaching reading scores are increasing substantially, 15-20%. All of that only happens with effective leadership across the district. And so I'm impressed by everything we've talked about. And Dr. Perera, congratulations and thank you for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Just one more item, a factoid about Lancaster is that we have about a little over 90% free reduced lunch students in our district. But by Texas education standards, our last accountability report card, we finished out at an 88, which is high B. So tell me kids in impoverished situations can't learn, and I come here and we will show you that they can. My kids have built cars, they built airplanes, computers. This coming year, they will be building a robotic tiger, which is our mascot for our district. But what I'll say is this again, it's about ensuring that they have what they need. It's Maslow's before Bloom's. So they don't get their personal needs met, you can forget about the curriculum.
And
Well,
you just reminded me of what you said in a conversation one time. You don't view students as at-risk students. You view
no,
them at opportunity.
That's incredible. Well, I was one of those kids, so thank you for what you're doing. And we as we do this work, and like we've done a lot of the community work around teaching kids to code and things like that. I mean, we pick the neighborhoods that were the worst neighborhoods, and in the end, those kids didn't know any different. Besides the fact that when they went to these big headquarters and got to do tours of Facebook and everything else, I mean, we were shocked at the fact that a lot of them had never seen an escalator before, right? But how would they have? They were on the wrong side of the tracks. So, to give them those opportunities to see what's possible. There's so many cool programs that are out there now. I've got one that I was working with recently that's showing kids what it's like to work in space using VR. He's in the space industry, so he's developed a program to show them what it's like to work in space. Those are all things that just open up your mind to what's possible because, say what you want about our country, you can still come from nothing and become something in the end. And I love that about where we live and want that for students, that were just like me. So I think it's an incredible story, incredible infrastructure you built there to produce that is incredible. I think it's awesome. So thank you for what you're doing.
you're welcome. The greatness of this nation begins every time a kid crosses the threshold of the classroom. It's our responsibility to ensure that they get what they need.
Well, thank you, Dr. Perera. I appreciate your time and congratulations again on your award and looking forward to talking to you again soon.